Norman, Oklahoma, and streaming live on the KREF app.
The Ref Sports Radio Network.
Live from the Buffalo Wild Wings studios, it's time to get locked into the best Sooner recruiting and football news with Parker Thune and Grayson Singleton.
You better lock it up. No, you lock it up. You lock it up. Lock it up.
Hit the guys up on the Riverwind Casino call-in line at 405-329-9000 or text the show on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line at 405-651-3439.
Do it! Just do it!
Now, with Locked In, here's Parker Thune and Grayson Singleton.
Oklahoma's quarterback targets have spoken. Or at least one of them has. They both took OVs somewhere else. That coming up for you here in a couple of moments on this Monday, June the 2nd edition of Locked In on the Ref Sports Radio Network. You know, I come back from vacation and I'm driving back from San Antonio and I get a text from TJ Perry that Parker's going to be out today. So we still don't have a full cast of characters on Locked In for what is now the 7th show in a row, because I think Parker was also out the last day that I was in prior to the Memorial Day weekend. But on we go. So is radio in the months of June and July and maybe the first week of August. But with me today, I'm Grayson Singleton, by the way. Glad to be back from vacation. Had a great week. Blake Gamble jumping in here with me again and with us again after doing a wonderful job filling in for me with Parker last week. What's up, BG? How's it going?
What's up, Grayson? We've done this before. We've been on lots of times before, not on these airwaves, but on a lot of high school calls. So I'm looking forward to getting to do this today with you.
Should be a lot of fun. Our show today brought to you by Dorsey Jones GMC out in El Reno, the low-pressure sales environment, family-friendly service, and as always, half-priced oil changes on Saturdays. So go visit our friends out in El Reno at Dorsey Jones GMC. Okay, so Bowe Bentley and Jaden O'Neal is where we are starting off our show today. By the way, those of you watching on YouTube, thanks for watching us on YouTube. Thanks for making us a part of your day. If you're listening on the app, let us know. Are you listening to us instead of baseball? Are you listening to us and listening to baseball? Are you listening to us and watching baseball? Let us know. 405-651-3439 on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line, and hit us up on YouTube at KREF Sports. So Bowe Bentley and Jaden O'Neal both took official visits to LSU and Arizona, respectively. Now, while we haven't heard exactly from Jaden O'Neal quite yet, we have seen some pictures that are kind of interesting. I'll give you my 2 cents, or my thoughts at least, on the Jaden O'Neal thing in a second. But we do have quotes from Bowe Bentley's visit to Baton Rouge over the weekend, coming from Rivals and national recruiting analyst Sam Spiegelman. So this was Bentley on his visit to LSU. Quote, "It all went really well. It was great to spend more time with the coaches and players and get to see what the daily life would look like around everyone. It was great to spend time around Coach Kelly, offensive coordinator Coach Joe Sloan, and their families. I feel very positive about them and comfortable just seeing how I can learn behind them," end quote. Okay, so Parker has tried to instill confidence that Bentley's going to be at Oklahoma. If you go to the rest of Parker's comrades, co-workers, whatever the hell you want to call it, at Rivals, they will tell you Bowe Bentley is going to LSU. Now, that's a pretty cool little couple of sentences from Bentley about LSU, but I don't know if it's something that would move the needle for me to say, hey, he's going to LSU, especially given the part of this that I don't know if Bowe Bentley's personality makes him an LSU Tiger. You know what I'm saying? Like, it takes a different kind of person to live in Baton Rouge. So I don't know. When you look at those quotes from Bowe, sure, he probably had a good time. Sure, LSU rolled out the red carpet. Does it give you any sort of cause to pause as if Bentley might actually be going to Louisiana State?
It's not overwhelming, Grayson. It's not too discouraging. I mean, when it's down to 2 schools and you have back-to-back visits, your biggest concern is does the second visit not happen when you're number 2 on the list? And luckily, there was no Hayes Fawcett post involving Bowe Bentley this weekend for Sooners fans. Luckily, the visit is still happening just like we expected. Bowe Bentley, from the beginning, said, I'm going to go to both campuses. I'm going to wait and make my decision and announcement then. And he mentioned that even in his outro interview. And he said everything was great. Got to talk to the coaches, just like you said. Things were exactly like I expected. It was a good time, and it looked like he had a good time. Now OU gets the chance to be consistent with their message, to impress and say, hey, here is why we are better. They get the final chance, which that's been a thing we've talked about. Now in this new day and age, do you want to be the first school? Now, in a different sense, luckily, he is going to be here, and OU gets that opportunity.
I'm glad you brought that up because later on in the show, we're going to talk about a guy who got locked down before taking that second visit, which would have been to Oklahoma. So stay tuned on the rest of the show for that. But, if you're LSU and it was under different offensive coordinators, obviously Joe Brady was the offensive coordinator when Joe Burrow put up his record-setting year in 2020, or 2019. But LSU does have a pretty good track record of developing quarterbacks. You go from Burrow to Jaden Daniels. Greg Nussmeier looks like he's going to be pretty good. I have him as the number 1 quarterback in the SEC heading into the 2025 year. So there is pull there. Also, I'll throw this out there too. LSU's got a pretty good track record of receivers too. And I think that's the part we leave out of here with this because, no, they didn't have a huge name receiver. I guess maybe Kyron Lacey, God rest his soul, last year. But they got a squad of receivers coming in this year. Nick Anderson coming over from Oklahoma. They got the guy from Kentucky whose name is slipping my mind right now. Aaron Anderson is coming back. And then, obviously, they've been wide receiver between them and Ohio State over the last half decade or so. So there is an allure to LSU, and there is something that could pull Bowe Bentley in LSU's direction, sure. But personality fit, man, is a real thing. And just from what I've gotten to know about him from the way outside looking in, mind you, it just doesn't seem like he's an LSU type of guy. And I think that might win out for Sooner fans.
Absolutely. I mean, LSU can say, hey, you ever heard of a guy named Jaden Daniels? I know you can say, hey, you ever heard of Kyler Murray? And then LSU can say, hey, you ever heard of Joe Burrow? And they say, OU just counters and says, hey, you ever heard of Baker Mayfield? LSU can say, hey, put on all our jewelry, look at all our trophies. And OU says, hey, how do you like Heisman trophies? We'll show you 4 from different quarterbacks of recent years. Yeah. Some of those just a little bit before its time and age. I think sometimes we forget how young these recruits are. And when you actually start watching football, you're talking about really the last 8 years, maybe 7 years. But this is a kid from Texas. So he's certainly familiar with Kyler and Baker. It will ultimately, I think, come down to fit and feel and comfort. I think it's going to be very important with the other guys on campus, the influence they have, and ultimately a culture thing like we're talking about. Parker has been insistent on he feels like an Oklahoma guy. Doesn't necessarily mean that's where he's going to go. There's been other people that still feel like it's an LSU lean, and we're just going to have to wait and see. But it's a huge week and obviously a huge weekend because if it's not Bowe Bentley, although he's committed, it's certainly Grayson does not feel good for Jaden O'Neal right now.
Great segue. Let's talk about Jaden O'Neal. Now, again, there's no new quotes about Jaden O'Neal's visit to Arizona over the weekend where he did OV. Now, he does have a connection to Arizona. I believe his trainer went there. So, and there's also some very strange picture on Twitter that Jaden O'Neal posted. So if you want to go look that up and, determine the strangeness of that for yourself, you really can. Would you?
No, yeah, Grayson, that picture is actually with him and his longtime trainer and mentor.
Yeah.
I'm going to probably mess up the name, but it's like Ortega Johnson. He played at Arizona in the late 90s, and he was a recent Ring of Honor inductee. So the fact that he was there, the fact that that post, which was saying, will he be next in line? I think that was definitely a very impactful visit for him. Although, you say, what is Arizona to OU? It's almost like a legacy recruit there, whereas most people would say, what's Arizona? This is a different case, and obviously with how OU has been all in on Bowe Bentley since Arbuckle and Jim Nagy have come around, I will not be surprised if Jaden O'Neal switches his commitment soon.
Which is interesting because Florida State has been kind of the runaway favorite for the longest part of this process to land his commitment if he does indeed flip from Oklahoma. But Florida State, from all the intel that I'm gathering, has kind of faded or is starting to fade. Auburn, I don't think, is in the picture.
And we talked about that just briefly last week.
Yeah.
Parker was letting me know about, I forget his name, but the 5-star athlete out of the Houston area that had been long time committed to the University of Houston.
Yes.
Florida State is all in on him right now and trying to get him to flip.
I would be slightly surprised if Florida State does not flip him. And his name, obviously, his name too is slipping my head right now. But I would be shocked if Florida State did not flip him. But going back to Jaden O'Neal and just the whole situation. So LSU makes a pretty good impression upon Bowe Bentley. OU, even though they did the in-home visit a couple of weeks ago, it seemed like it went good. They were able to smooth some things out. I still think they have reached the part of irreconcilable differences with Jaden O'Neal. I do not expect Jaden O'Neal to be in this class. We've said that for months. That's no new news. But given that LSU made a pretty damn good impression on Bowe Bentley, that's when this sort of thing starts to get pretty dicey here. And I do think, now, I will pose this. I do think Oklahoma has an out here if they don't land either of them, which is a possibility. Bowe Bentley could, because we all know Joe Burrow succeeded at LSU, but Joe Burrow's a different type of dude, right? Garrett Nussmeier is not Joe Burrow, so LSU can make it work with people of the Bowe Bentley sort of personality. That has happened. So let's put ourselves in the scenario that Bowe Bentley goes to LSU and Jaden O'Neal, let's just say, thank you, Drew from Flower Mound. Keyshawn Henderson is the athlete from the Houston, Texas area. Let's put ourselves in the hypothetical that Bentley goes to LSU and O'Neal goes to Arizona. The out here is that Oklahoma lands Peyton Houston in the 2027 class, which right now seems like a very high likelihood. You could go from John Mateer to Michael Hawkins, maybe Michael Hawkins for 2 more years, and then a redshirt freshman Peyton Houston. So all is not lost here. This thing hasn't gone to hell in a handbasket if both Bowe Bentley and Jaden O'Neal do not end up in the class. There is a recourse here for Oklahoma. So everything's going to be okay if both of them end up other places other than Norman. To the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line we go, 405-651-3439. Kyle from Salisaw says, listening to you guys, I'll catch the game when the show's over. And we will keep you updated on that, by the way. They're in the top of the first inning at the Chapel Hill Regional. Carolina has a runner on first with 2 gone in the top of the first. 1-star Slick Sooner, listening to Locked In at the gym with the baseball game on the gym TVs. That's a hell of an afternoon right there. Hattie, who's producing our YouTube, nods in approval as well. Mike S. says, it would be interesting to know what, if anything, Nick Anderson and Bauer Sharp had to say about OU with Bentley. Great text. We have 3 minutes left in this segment. Blake Gamble, what do you think about when you hear Nick Anderson went over there, Bauer Sharp went over there, and they could possibly have something to do with negative recruiting, which seems to be a pretty evergreen topic on this show. What do you think about that?
Man, that would be fascinating to hear if they were involved in some way. Negative recruiting is a double-edged sword, I will say. I think although it could be helpful if it's from a peer versus a coach, they could give you some insight.
Right.
I think if you talk a little too heavily, if you come off a little too almost vile about a school, if you will,
Sure.
it can kind of reveal a person's character almost.
It's almost like if you come off too negative, it's like, okay, were you the problem?
Right,
Yeah.
right, exactly. And it might reveal what this place could be like, and that could be a red flag there. Real quickly from the YouTube chat,
Go ahead.
this was too good to pass up. Robert chimes in, fit and feel, and then a bunch of emojis with the money bag, which, who knows, NIL could ultimately be the determining factor here.
I think NIL will have something to do with it. I don't know if it'll have everything to do with it, but I think it will have something to do with that. But going back to Nick Anderson and Bowe Sharp, look at their experiences with Oklahoma this last year. Nick Anderson has a crazy mystery injury that keeps him out for simplicity purposes, the entire year. The medical staff was a little bit weird with him. By the way, you know who else the medical staff was weird with? Andrell Anthony, one of his other receivers that was in that receiver room with him. So that's not nothing. Bowe Sharp's experience here. Joe John Finley did not do the greatest job as the interim play caller, and the tight ends all season long were not utilized properly. That affects the guys you're throwing the ball to if you're a quarterback. So I think there is definitely room for Nick Anderson and Bowe Sharp to say, by the way, Joe John Finley's still here. There is room for them to say, hey, yo, like, this is, we don't know what's going on here, even though they do have a new offensive coordinator who seems to really like you. They didn't have a whole lot of turnover on the medical staff from what I've heard, and Joe John Finley's still there, which can affect the people who are instrumental to making you look good. I think that is something that could be said that, by the way, would not come off as, like you said, vile. I really do. Just getting started here on Locked In on a Monday at the beginning of June as OV season is right around the corner. Parker Thune, by the way, he's out covering the SMU mega camp, which, by the way, leads us into this. Oklahoma's coaching staff is doing something that it has not done in 4 years. We'll tell you what that is next. On the other side, Blake Gamble along with me. I'm Grayson Singleton on Locked In on a Monday.
Sooner football talk lives here. This is The Ref.
Beats and Bites Festival is back again at Riverwind Casino, where good grooves and great food are on tap all summer long. Kicking off on June 14th with Josh Turner.
Would you go with me?
And Edwin McCain. Along with crave-worthy eats from local food trucks, there's something for everyone. Get your tickets online or at the box office for just $10. Only at Riverwind Casino.
Why don't we just dance?
Oklahoma DRS helps job seekers with disabilities become taxpayers.
Their whole thing is to help people with disabilities go back to work.
They knew that I would be successful if I did not give up.
They have given me the power and confidence to face any challenge.
I'm just glad that, DRS was there. Empower yourself. Talk to DRS Vocational Rehabilitation.
Or services for the blind today.
OKDRS.gov. 800-487-4042.
Mike Steele here for Lasher Home Comfort Systems, your trusted home comfort experts in the Oklahoma City metro area. Tim Lasher and his team have more than 130 years of combined experience. They recognize a significant number of homeowners live with inadequate home comfort systems. They specialize in diagnosing your home system issues while providing more efficiency and reducing your utility costs. As an authorized dealer of American Standard, Tim can service your residence or business. Call Tim and his team at 405-579-3113. Lasher Home Comfort Systems.
No matter what a strong future looks like to you, you can start building it with a home equity line of credit from Armstrong Bank. There's no time like the present to take advantage of your home equity. From home renovations to wedding expenses, vacations to new cars, the future is yours with a HELOC from Armstrong Bank. Visit armstrong.bank/HELOC to get started. Armstrong Bank. Strength runs in our family. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
My son Ian was diagnosed with a brain tumor at the age of 16 months. We had no hope until St. Jude rescued us. He's alive because of what St. Jude has done. He's here because of the doctors who came before, their blood, their sweat, their tears, the knowledge accumulated and shared, with everyone else around the world. This is how we help kids beat cancer all over.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
When you're high, you feel different. You think different, you talk different, you draw different, you listen to music different, but you probably knew that. Problem is, you also drive different, and not in a good way. That's why driving high is illegal everywhere. So if you're high, just don't drive. Make a plan to get a sober ride. Because if you feel different, you drive different. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
The best words to hear at the TSA security checkpoint? You're good to go. All it takes is a little preparation. Get to the airport early, bring a carry-on bag that fits in the overhead, and have an acceptable ID. Not all state-issued IDs will cut it. Check out tsa.gov/ID and see which TSA acceptable IDs make the grade, like a real ID or passport.
Before you jet, do a little prep, and you're good to go. Check out tsa.gov/ID or the MyTSA app.
When severe weather strikes in Oklahoma, your safety depends on being alert and ready. Know exactly what to expect with your most accurate forecast. This is what's headed to Oklahoma City. Difference-making details, keeping you steps ahead.
If you're in Midwest City, you have to get away from north-facing windows.
Your first alert keeps you prepared and protected.
Very close to Yukon. You have to be going into your tornado shelter.
Tracking threats where they matter most. In your neighborhood. This is a bad situation for the south side of Norman. Trust First Alert Weather.
Well, Reed Hensley got 2 outs, and then Carolina shelled him as the Tar Heels drive in 3 runs in the top of the first to take a 3-0 lead as the Sooners are grabbing the bats for the first time in the game in the bottom of the first, already down 3-0 in the Chapel Hill Regional Championship as the winner advances to the Super Regional and the loser sees its season come to an end. Grayson, Singleton, Blake Gamble here with you on Locked In on the Ref Sports Radio Network, presented as always by Dorsey Jones Buick, or Dorsey Jones GMC. Okay, so Oklahoma's coaching staff is doing something that they have not done since 2021. And that is they are in-person scouting at the SMU Mega Camp.
If you're playing the locked-in drinking game at home, that's a drink, because we just mentioned SMU.
You and Parker do this to me all the time. I'm over here just trying to bring unbiased journalism and opinion to the Ref Army, and y'all over here trying to get me on the bad side.
No, it's not you. Everyone talks about it. It is a big story, though. It is a big story. Continue on.
And what's interesting is that it's a big story about SMU, but I think it actually is a very proactive move by Oklahoma's coaching staff, because here's the reality of the situation. You know why they're there?
Yeah.
Because SMU has made itself an option for all the stars that Oklahoma wants to be there.
Oh, Grayson, if I joke, but if anything, this legitimizes the fact that we have brought up SMU so much on our shows.
I agree.
Because literally OU is spending their time and visiting their camp.
I mean, and you look at DFW and, the metropolitan of football talent that comes out of there. You have to be there. But, by the way, I wasn't able to track down an entire list of the prospects that are there, but just know there are more than plenty that Oklahoma is going after that are at this camp. So, a really proactive move by Oklahoma to go down there. And I think there is a building respect now for the Ponies in DFW. Because, look, we've talked about how SMU is going to try to build some sort of a fence around DFW. Now, will they successfully do that? Time will tell. But Oklahoma is saying, no, not so fast. Not quite. We've still got our guys there that we're still going to go after. And by the way, Oklahoma just had some guys up for camp. who says thievery isn't really the bad thing? They can go steal some guys from SMU's camp too. I think it is. Sometimes we overcomplicate things in life. Keep the simple things the simple things. This makes perfect sense. Perfect sense for Oklahoma to go down there. It doesn't take that much out of the recruiting budget to send some people 2.5 hours down to DFW to go to a camp. And the amount of networking you can do with kids there can either reinforce your position with some of these prospects, get you on the radar of some other ones, and in the process possibly steal some from not just SMU but from somebody else too. Because not every school can just as easily send guys down there. So the fact that you can, even though it's not in your backyard, you should take advantage of it. So credit to Oklahoma for going down there. But it also says more about what's coming up with SMU, is that they've gotten the kids that they probably wouldn't have gotten to this camp 5 years ago. They've gotten them there now. And that's where everybody's got to be.
And I think it's just smart. I mean, I don't know if this is Jim Nagy's doing or not, but perhaps just thinking from a college football video game perspective, there might be some hidden gems at this camp that aren't on the radar, that don't have stars attached to their names, that by going there, it's not just SMU that's the first to offer them. You're right there. You can shake their hand and say, hey, son, how'd you like to play for the University of Oklahoma? I haven't heard of you before, but the way you performed today, we'd love to have you up in Norman.
Dude, so I'm so glad you brought that up. That happens all the time because DFW, if any place on earth, DFW is a place where you can get lost in the shuffle because there are so many good players out of there. There's too many. So, yeah, absolutely. I think you are spot on. It's also and this is where my experience with the AAU system is going to come into play here. There are team camps in basketball and getting recruited, but a lot of these AAU tournaments, you know the names that you're going to watch. But 1-2 good performances, and now you're on the radar after having been overlooked because you're not in those top 150 or whatever. The same is true about these sorts of camps too. So, no, you are dead on the money with the importance of these camps, not just for the kids, but for the scouts. And by the way, Oklahoma is a pioneer in this new kind of thing of bringing in NFL-type guys with Jim Nagy and what he's been doing with his staff. They're bringing in a different level of scouting, and they'll be able to find new guys. I mean, just how many new guys have jumped onto the OU radar since Jim Nagy got here that otherwise may not have been?
Yeah, absolutely. Just through connections alone. Obviously, you have word of mouth. They have so many databases that you and I and 99% of people aren't aware of. But obviously, they host their own camps. But a lot of those guys, there's a little bit of a barrier. You got to pay to show up there if you're not an invitee, that sort of thing. So by going out, by seeking out their own potential prospects, you might uncover some guys. Now, there might be nobody new there, but it's the opportunity. How many times do we hear about, we didn't even know about this guy. We were there to scout so-and-so. He's their teammate, and it turned around, we wanted him. We hear stories like that all the time on a broadcast on ABC of an emerging star 3-4 years after the fact. It could be a preferred walk-on. It could be anything like that. And, who knows what's to come of this. But the fact that they're just going shows that they are busting their tail.
To the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line, after all these points. By the way, 405-651-3439. A text from the 405, who is the top quarterback prospect in the 2026 class from the state of Oklahoma? Okay.
We talked about this just briefly.
Yes, yes, you guys did. That was one of the things that I caught while I was on vacation. If you count him, and I don't blame you if you don't, Jaden O'Neal is the number one prospect in the 2026 class out of Oklahoma. After him is probably Easton Webb, who has been offered by Oklahoma, I believe, from Sand Springs. Beyond him, I don't really know in the 2026 class.
The big thing with Easton Webb also is that he's a baseball player.
Yes,
and
a really good one.
And I believe currently committed to OSU for that.
Yes, that's correct.
So, I mean, he might be a two-sport guy. Obviously, OU's done that before, but for a guy like him who's nowhere near as touted as Bowe Bentley, I would imagine they probably want him to choose a lane.
I think he's going to end up playing baseball.
I think it's his better sport.
I think it is too. I will say this, though, by the way. I think he's a 2027 guy, but keep an eye on this guy from Owasso, I believe. Drew Frankenfield. Really good player. I think he's either Owasso or Jinx. One of those maroon schools in the Tulsa area. But he's going to be a really good player. He turned in a really good sophomore season this year. So that's the one I would say keep your eye on. Does Oklahoma get involved with him? I don't know. I'm not saying that. But if you're talking about good quarterbacks coming out of the state of Oklahoma, he's a really good one. By the way, Carolina just gets a leadoff single in the top of the second, so the Heel's still up 3-0 in that game over in Chapel Hill. 2-star Jay in Tulsa. Hey, Grayson, did you see over the weekend where Peyton Houston was going to be USC's primary 2027 quarterback target? Yep, I saw it. I think Oklahoma is in a good spot with him to where the Sooners will be able to hold off USC. He does seem like a Lincoln Riley guy, though, in terms of his play style. We've talked about Bowe Bentley being a Ben Arbuckle type of guy. He does seem like a type of guy that Lincoln Riley would like. I do think Oklahoma's going to hold off the Trojans for him.
Which, speaking of quarterbacks and commits, Grayson, I don't even think we mentioned this. We do have a poll question today.
Yeah, go ahead.
About the quarterbacks that OU are going after this season. Who will OU ultimately sign at quarterback in the 2026 class? Will it be Bowe Bentley? Will it be Jaden O'Neal? Will it be both or someone else and or neither? Current leader is Bowe Bentley, only at 34%, though. So we got 47 votes. Over 80 people watching right now. So if you're not, that's where you can check us out every single day. Go vote, and we'll let you know about the results towards the end of the show.
On the YouTube chat, by the way, we'll stay there. Bevo's bodyguard with an interesting perspective. Who wants to go lose to Navy? And OU only had 2 players drafted. Okay. Basically what you're saying, and in a way I agree with this. Basically what you're saying is Oklahoma doesn't have a whole lot of momentum in its program. That's essentially what you're getting at. All fair and good. Oklahoma is still Oklahoma. And even though NIL has leveled the playing field when it comes to recruiting to some degree, I will say this. History and tradition does matter somewhat. It still does matter. Does it matter a whole heck of a lot like it used to? To some, maybe not. But you are still Oklahoma. So, yes, there isn't a whole lot of momentum around the program right now, given how last season transpired. But you're still going to get teams because you're still the interlocked O&U. You still are the Crimson and Cream. And you're still going to be okay. Ray T and Shawnee, curious, what is the upside of Bentley over O'Neal, or why is Arbuckle so sold? Okay, so Jaden O'Neal is more of a pro-style, traditional pocket passing quarterback. Bowe Bentley will remind you a lot of John Mateer. Bowe Bentley is a more modern style quarterback. Four-star guy, 6'3", 195 pounds out of Celina.
Tailing your loss and insurance settlement. As your trusted consultant, Brown O'Haver can give you peace of mind and make sure you're getting what's yours. Call Brown O'Haver today, 405-735-5510, and make sure they're working for you.
Coach Stoops here for Van Hoos Fence. If you want to work with the best local fence company and get championship service, contact my friend Mark and the Van Hoos Fence team. Van Hoos Fence gives each customer the most professional craftsmanship and competitive pricing in Oklahoma. From wood to chain link to vinyl to metal fences, the Van Hoos Fence team does it all. Contact the Fencing All-Americans at Van Hoos Fence, 405-735-1167 or vhfence.com.
Are you looking for a luxury apartment for rent in Norman? The Falls at Brookhaven offers stunning 2- and 3-bedroom spacious floor plans with large walk-in closets, washer and dryer hookup, and a fabulous kitchen in a well-maintained, calm environment. From plush carpet to sleek stainless steel appliances to a pool, 24-hour fitness, and 2 dog parks, the Falls at Brookhaven has it all. Call our locally owned and operated community at 405-701-8233 or go online to thefallsatbrookhaven.com for a free tour and see what living in luxury is like.
It's 3-2 now as the Sooners climb within a run of North Carolina. In the bottom of the second, it is now 3-2. I have to go back and see how they tied the game or how they got it that close. But we are in the bottom of the second. There's a runner on first now after a 4-pitch walk with one gone, and North Carolina leads 3-2 now over the Sooners. Cody from the northeast corner on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line. Well, Texas hasn't been blank ever. I mean, sure. Not to the standard OU has been, but, I mean, they were in the college football playoff last year. And if you're saying ever, they did win a natty in 2005. Granted, that was a long time ago. Hell, I was 3 years old when that happened, which also feels like a long time ago. I'm not going to stay on this long, trust me. Have you seen how bad the Rockies are?
Yeah, I didn't. Is that Perry? Did Perry Spencer just text us?
Perry's not from Kansas.
All right.
So I don't think he has a burner phone with a 316 ERA. A 316 area code. They're so bad. They're terrible.
It's pretty bad.
I mean, I could catch some of the fly balls they're dropping. Good gosh, they're miserable. Welcome back to Locked In as we get you into our final segment here on a Monday before we turn it over to Tyler and Ted for the Rush. Grayson, Singleton, Blake Gamble here with you. I'm back from vacation. Parker's in Dallas covering the SMU Mega Camp. And let's give you a whip around, sort of what's going on with OU, some of OU's targets. And we'll start with Norman North's Daniel McMorris. Now, Parker and I both like this guy. A lot of high potential. It's definitely potential. He's a project. He committed over the weekend to Minnesota, who, by the way, Minnesota's kind of on a run right now. They've been picking up a lot of commits. They've got, I think, 3 dudes who are 3-star or higher on their offensive line from the 2026 class. So the Gophers are doing some work on the recruiting trail right now. To my knowledge, I don't think Daniel McMorris ever got an OU offer, but the Norman North left tackle is now off the board going to the Gophers. Ben Wenzel, if you guys haven't seen, he's the 4-star linebacker from Wisconsin, from Appleton, Wisconsin, who OU was the first to the party on. Well, OU's not going to get him back on campus because he took the OV to Wisconsin and he committed to the Badgers. And, Blake, you mentioned earlier in the show about, do you want the first visit or do you want the last visit? What kind of philosophy do you want? It seems like the Sooners' philosophy has been, we want the last visit. Well, the risk you run there is that you never get the visit. And that is going to be the case with Ben Wenzel.
I mean, their big philosophy is they want everyone to visit this weekend. It's going to be a huge weekend.
This weekend or the weekend of the Champion Barbecue, the 20th to the 22nd.
Yeah, they want everyone there, and because of that, they didn't really have anyone on campus this weekend, except for they had camp, and so there were a handful of offers that went out to some juniors and some underclassmen, not guys, just like you shared with us about guys canceling visits and making commitments and that sort of thing. But, we don't have to spend a lot of time on this, but a 5-star kicker out of Overland Park, Kansas, Trace Rudd gets the offer. Charles Trey Britton out of the Michigan area, he gets an offer. Same high school as Deion Burks, which is kind of an interesting note. Also, TJ Grant, a junior running back from Bishop Gorman, which is the high school DeMarco Murray went to. So you got that connection. A nice little pipeline's been established to OU from that high school for many years. And just a sophomore, but an offensive tackle that is 6'8" and has offers from every single school you could possibly think of already. Cone Dial, I believe is how you pronounce his name, from Franklin, Tennessee. Sooners had him around. They offered him. So who knows if any of these guys end up there, but some guys that are going to move up in the rankings, and OU got to meet with them and made their impression, which is a good thing in a weekend when you're really just hoping to not have any bad news. So some silver linings, right?
There's some silver linings. And by the way, keeping it with linebacker before we go to running back here in a second, DeQueeves Beck, I hope I pronounced that name correctly. He is the 4-star linebacker, 6'1", 205, out of Carthage, Texas. He dropped the top 3. That included Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, and Texas A&M. Oklahoma State is 3rd there. He liked it, but Oklahoma State is 3rd in that pecking order. Oklahoma is number 2. The belief right now is that A&M is the leader right now for the 4-star linebacker DeQueeves Beck. Really physical guy, plays a very angry brand of football, and he's going to be a really good player. So Oklahoma right now believed to be running second behind A&M on DeQueeves Beck. So that's an update there on linebacker. By the way, Ben Wenzel going off the board to Wisconsin kind of heightens the importance of a guy like DeQueeves Beck. Now. Before you start panicking, he is not the only linebacker they are still going after. You still look good for Bo Jandro. You still look good for Braxton Lindsey. That one's going to come down to OU and BYU. Adam Balogan Ali, probably butchered the hell out of that name. You all know who I'm talking about. You still look pretty decent for him. And you're still going to get Talanoa Ely on campus for the Champion Barbecue, I believe. So, it's not a do-or-die situation with both Ben Wenzel and DeQueeves Beck. Would you have liked one of the two? Obviously. Do you still have a chance to get DeQueeves Beck? Yes, you do. You're running second right now. But it's not an end-of-the-world situation if you don't get both of them. Yes, you're losing a lot of linebackers after last year and then after this year, sure. But you're still sitting pretty with what you got there.
I genuinely hope Parker Thune is listening right now, or he listens back to the show on his drive home. Because, Grayson, I just have a feeling we are essentially reenacting the substitute teacher sketch from Key and Peele with our mispronunciations of some of these recruits. Just because he writes about them, he's met so many of them face to face. You and I aren't out on the trail because we're so busy announcing high school sports or Kara Sports TV. But there are a couple of tricky names, and Parker, if you're out there, we appreciate your help with all these pronunciations.
Ron. Balake.
I am literally Balake.
I was going to say, you are literally Balake. He's Blake Gamble. I'm Grayson Singleton. 405-651-3439. Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line. By the way, what the hell are y'all doing in the YouTube chat? What is going on there? What are y'all doing? Mars Jam and Bevo's bodyguard. You know, there's one position, though. I just told you not to panic about linebacker if the DeQueeves Beck recruitment doesn't go OU's way, and don't panic about Ben Wenzel committing to Wisconsin. Running back might be the position you start to worry about in the 2026 class. I am kind of there with running back. Rylan Morris is still committed to Baylor. Caden Jones signed with is committed, to Oklahoma State. And the running backs that you're going with now, Jonathan Hatton, by the way, is sticking with Texas A&M. And the running backs that you're going after right now, DeZaphon Walker out of the state of Missouri, still looks to be Nebraska for my money right now. Still looks to be Nebraska. Ryan Estrada, the fast, ultra-fast riser coming out of the El Paso world. He has locked in official visits to Alabama, Oklahoma State, Wisconsin, Mizzou, and Minnesota. And I guess at this point in time, you can't really sleep on Minnesota, even though I'm going to bet that a kid from El Paso, Texas doesn't end up in Minnesota. But then again, there was just a kid from Norman, Oklahoma that ended up there. So who the hell knows at this point? But Alabama, Oklahoma State, Wisconsin, and Mizzou are on the OV schedule for Ryan Estrada. I don't know if he locks in an OV to Oklahoma. He has an Oklahoma offer. That offer is on the table. They would like to get him in for an OV. Just don't know if that's going to happen. So, two of your pivots right now aren't looking in the best spot for Oklahoma. Now, can that change? Absolutely. There's still some runway here. But with Jones off the board, Hatton off the board, Morris still committed to Baylor. We'll see how long that lasts. Even though I will say this about the Rylan Morris recruitment. Dave Aranda is incredibly involved. I mean, Dave Aranda himself is calling Rylan Morris often. And also to this point, too, is Baylor going to be even more pesky? I think you guys talked about this a little bit last week. I think you told me. Is Baylor going to start being a little bit more pesky than we give them credit for?
I mean, Baylor had some success last year towards the end of the season, and we know they have money. They've got nice facilities. If you're a local kid and they're throwing the bag around, I mean, there is some appeal to be the big man on campus in Waco. That said, if I'm choosing between being a running back in the class at OU or at Baylor, or a wide receiver in the class at OU or Baylor, going off of track record, off of history, outside of the RG3 era, there's not a whole lot of reasons to go to Baylor, unless if it's strictly business and it's about earning some money.
And I mean, for some people, it might be
100%. And you can understand that. I mean, why not?
Yeah, no doubt. So, I mean, Davian Gross, we talked about the last time I was on the show, the athlete from Frisco. That's looking like that's going to be Baylor. They've caught a lot of momentum with him. So, yeah, I think Baylor is certainly somebody that you're going to have to, I don't know what to say, worry about, but you can't summarily dismiss them. You can't sneeze at them because they're coming. And if Dave Aranda has that thing turned in a good direction like it seems like he might have, then all of a sudden that becomes even more of a problem, recruiting Texas, especially those parts of Texas. But we'll see. We'll see what goes on with Baylor. But I am still kind of worried about that running back position, especially after striking out on the three we have been talking about for the most part. And then now the two running backs that Oklahoma has pivoted to, it looks like they have leaders that are other schools. Man, that hour flew by. Good stuff, Blake Gamble.
It's a good time, man. I'd love to be back anytime.
And I'm pretty sure you will. Parker Thune's back tomorrow, so the gang is back together in 23 hours from now. Enjoy OU baseball, The Rush with Tyler and Ted coming up next.